Before we get started with today's podcast, we'd like to ask returning listeners to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast platform, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you really enjoy it, share a link to this podcast with friends or family who would enjoy hearing our weekly discussions about basketball and basketball culture. Now, on to the show.
Yeah, isn't it amazing when Michigan can keep this game to a 19-foot 9-inch game inside that three-point line? It's all theirs. Nice move by Steve Fisher here. Bring it into the 19-9.
Welcome to the 19-9 podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Meyer, and I'm joined by Sammy Gunnell. I love the way that I found him was just this backward story that we're going to get into. But if you haven't already checked him out, he's on the Instagram platform and documents his findings. And Slam has made this project official, and we're going to talk about how that happened too. But if you go to @SlamArchive, you can see all these amazing photos. He pulls apart the magazines and just looks for the most unique history. And for me, and I'll talk about my stuff too, that Slam is like my basketball Bible. So I grew up on it. And so it's a pleasure to have someone who obviously takes it as seriously as I do. So welcome to the podcast, Sammy.
Thanks so much, man. I'm excited to be here.
I also have to say to no doubt that the British accent will be a first on the 19-9 podcast. So I've been really into the Long Way Up, Long Way Down TV series. I don't know if you've seen those. I know it's not exactly British, but just that type of accent sucks me right in.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know it. I'll have to check it out. But yeah.
Okay, so.
But I'm excited to be the first British accent on your show.
Yeah, you can turn it up. You can turn it up too.
Yeah.
All right, let's start here. So tell us your basketball origin story. How'd you fall in love with the game? How'd you get into basketball?
Randomly, I think I was caught in that wave of the kind of early 90s, like NBA globalization. I think that probably followed the 92 Olympics and the Dream Team, obviously, hitting Europe and just taking Europe by storm. And I think probably one of the spin-offs of that was things like NBA videos and video games come into the UK. And the main thing I remember is being at a bowling alley. It's probably the same in the States, but over here we do. Adults love bowling, but we have kids parties at yes. Bowling alleys. And I was at a kids.
You got to get the bumpers on there.
Exactly, bumpers and and push it down the trolley thing. But
that's right.
But I was at one of those parties as a kid. I was probably about 10, and there was an NBA Jam arcade machine in the arcade area, and I remember just being completely just sucked in by it, and just everything about it just looked exciting. And I think from there I was just like, everything kind of NBA and everything basketball related, I just found it fascinating. And I think probably hand in hand with that, early on, this is going to sound really random, but my mom bought me a videotape that she must have found in some random store, and it was the history of the Harlem Globetrotters.
Nice.
And so those two things combined, I think, and the excitement of NBA Jam, and then seeing the way, especially Harlem Globetrotters used to play obviously serious basketball, yes. right? Before they do what they did now. And so seeing the way they played, and then obviously the story, I was completely taken by it. And I think since then, I think kind of growing up through those teenage years, and Michael Jordan was in his prime. So yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time to get
I would have really liked to see what your game looked like after playing NBA Jam and then watching a bunch of Harlem Globetrotters videos.
Well, what's funny is, I'll tell you, when I actually first saw an NBA game, and this was after kind of watching like highlight videos and collecting, I don't know, stickers and stuff, I was like, why is it so slow?
Yeah, right.
Like, why is the game so slow? And why are they not dunking like every time they get the ball? Like just dunk it like every time. And so it took me a little while to kind of adjust to actually what how the game was actually played fundamentally and properly outside of just highlight reels and video games, you know, and so yeah, it was an interesting.
Did you pick up
journey.
the game and play it all?
Yeah, I played. So I'm from a place in the UK called Birmingham. I know you have a Birmingham in the States as well, which is about 100 miles away from London, which is where I live now. And I used to play regional basketball in Birmingham as a kid. I spent a lot of time on the bench, which is
no shame in that.
Kind of have, exactly. So I have a kind of I've kind of marketed myself as Sammy the bench warmer a little bit. But you can see a lot from the bench, you know, and taking a lot of the game, and you know, that's kind of where I played a little bit, and it was fun, but I definitely was not the best player.
No, it's all right. We've got a series that we actually do called Tales from the Bench with some just college guys who sat at the bench, because you do have a unique perspective, right? Because you actually get to watch the whole game. When you're out there playing, sometimes you just have this sort of blinders on and you're paying attention to what you're doing, and you can't watch what everyone else is doing, right?
100%.
I was going to tell you too, there's a book. We did another podcast with the author called, his name's Rayan Ali. Really cool book. If you haven't checked it out, about the history of NBA Jam. It's an absolutely fascinating history about how it came up. You got it up there? Oh, I see it. Yes.
I got it up there. Yeah.
Yes. Nice.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Great book, man. Yeah, and I think still now, everything, it's a great book, and I think the way he's put that together is incredible.
Yeah, so much fun.
I'll definitely have to check out that show.
We got, and then the next one we talked to Pete Croato. He's got a book that just came out called From Hang Time to Prime Time. Really good too. Another kind of more about the NBA, but I just like the stories that he picks out of there.
Nice.
I want to get into, though, a little bit of how I came to find you, because that's a funny story. And then I want to hear just kind of how you came up with the idea to start doing what you're doing. So I was watching this interview with Dennis Page, founder of Slam, and he's talking about Slam and about the cover of Slam. And he starts talking about their digital presence, and he just name drops you and talks about, he's like, this guy, he's just putting all of Slam on Instagram, and I was just like, hold on, what? And he was so enthusiastic about it and excited about it, and I love that approach, because it's kind of how the NBA has gone too. You know, they'll let people clip up games and use that, because it's, you know, like a commercial, right? You get to see it, and it doesn't, you know, those are the biggest fans, the ones that are looking at pages like that. But I'm just curious, where'd you get the idea, and then how did you kind of start to put it together?
Well, about probably 6 years ago, I began kind of just digging out my old kind of collection of stuff. So I had loads of NBA jerseys, and I had loads of magazines and all sorts. And I guess kind of a long story short is that I began kind of selling some of my old stuff, but then noticing how much some of it could go for on eBay or whatever. And so
no kidding, probably more even now today.
It's true. And then probably noticing then when other people were underselling their stuff, so buying things and reselling. And then I started putting stuff on Instagram, because then I kind of tapped into this whole community of basketball fans who sold everything from old school jerseys, game worn jerseys, and then things like trading cards, the old NBA videotapes. And so I just began kind of tapping into that community. There's loads of guys in Europe and in the UK as well, who are part of that community as well. And I guess I started kind of building and kind of making links through that. And then I put together a pop-up shop in the UK in 2017 in London, which was really cool. And I'd kind of, through Instagram, been able to, one of the major people that was amazing for me to connect with was Slam. And initially it started informally, in that they were running something at the time called a hashtag called Slam Hoops.
Okay. Yeah.
So people would just share nice pictures of courts, maybe their local court or wherever, and hashtag Slam Hoops, and they would reshare it. And basically I was using the hashtag all the time, because, I loved Slam. And then one day they were like, that they dropped me a DM and were like, we'd love to repost your pic, send us an email. And I was just like, I probably emailed something like this is the greatest day of my life. That Slam has got in touch with me. And so this picture was amongst all this other stuff that I was doing in terms of jersey collecting and stuff like that. So when I did this pop-up shop, I'd kind of built a bit of a relationship with them off the back of that. And they kind of informally partnered with me on the shop and allowed me to put up, do a whole display wall of Slam covers, which was really, really cool. And then a bit later down the line, I had like a permanent shop, a kind of semi-permanent shop here in London that continued going. But then that kind of phased out, and I was at a place where I'd built kind of a decent following on this Instagram page with old school basketball stuff. And I was thinking, what can I do next? And I thought, well, I want to stay engaged. I want to stay connected with this community. And so I thought Slam is one of my favorite things that I have. It's my favorite part of basketball history. I reckon I've got more or less at least the first 50 issues, and most of even the alternate covers within those 50 issues as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I thought, let me start posting them and documenting them. And so I did, and I kind of did it in a way where was quite thorough. The cover, the adverts, and then also the content within as well. And just from the get-go, it just was getting really amazing engagement. So Dennis Page was all over it, and Ben Osborne, one of the former editors as well, he was just really kind of showing it a lot of love. And then Tony Givino, one of the original editors, who I was fortunate to meet him in London like a few years back. He dropped a comment and he said, "I'll do you a deal if you tag me in every cover that I edited. I will share any anecdotes I have in the comment section."
Yes,
and so
cool.
All of that just went towards it, kind of really just gaining a lot of interest and a lot of engagement. So that's kind of how it all started, really. And then, it it got official a little bit later after that.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like so it's just, and it's weird how so many ideas are just about, it's about the spark, but then it's about having the intentionality and just like actually doing it. Like you think, okay, well, I've got this idea to start posting stuff, but so many people just drop the follow through, like to go through page by page, make, have it a nice, the way it's laid out. When people look at it, they're going to, understand what we're talking about and be like, all right, this is great. Like, if you value something like Slam, like we do as a part of the basketball community, it is something that, I was talking to Jesse Washington, and he contributed to some magazines that are just not out there, and it's just, you miss it because there's real stories in there that you're just like, man, I remember so many of those as a kid, and it's not like you can go down to the library anymore and just like pick up a copy or anything. So it's just, it's wonderful to go through that. So I'm curious then, what was it like? Like, how did you make it official? Because now you're listed as the official Slam archivist. So it's kind of a fun title too. That had to be, talk about dream come true. Josh, I've got the top 50 college basketball team. So Josh, actually, one of the owners at 99, made it in there. So he's got a definite one up on me. But I'm curious how you became the official archivist.
Well, the interview you mentioned with Dennis, he basically, just shortly before that interview, he emailed me and said, I love what you're doing on Instagram. Let's talk. Nice. And he said, let's arrange a call with me and Adam Figman, Slam editor. And so I wasn't thinking kind of anything in terms of, I don't know what I was expecting, but my hopes were not high.
But sometimes that's sometimes good too.
Exactly, I think it is, and I think so. I said to my wife, I said, I'm just going to go and have this call with Dennis and Adam, and then the call took like 5-10 minutes, and she came back and she was like, "Oh, the call's finished," but I was just like, I can't believe what they've just said. And I think I probably came across on the phone as a little bit kind of like underwhelmed, but I was kind of like speechless. But they basically said, look, we love what you're doing. We want you to keep doing it, to current day slams, because I must have been up to maybe about issue 20 or something, and by this point they were up to like 220. So they were like, we want you to come up to current day. We want you to be the official slam archivist, and kind of other little kind of bits and pieces that we'd love you to be involved in and stuff as well. Let us know what you think. And I was just completely like blown away. And then I saw that interview with Dennis, and I saw it by chance. He didn't even tell me that it happened. I just, somehow it kind of popped up somewhere, and I watched it. And I messaged him. I said, Dennis, like, thanks so much for what you said. And I think because in the interview he said, he's our unofficial historian. And then he just messaged me back and he said, yeah, let's make the unofficial official. And I was like, of course, like I would like it. And it's like you said, it was a dream come true, really. And I think if probably 10-year-old me knew that would be what I'd do one day, I would be over the moon. And I think I felt like my 10-year-old self when they asked me to do it. I was just completely blown away, man. So yeah.
I think that's what's great about basketball too. I work as a assistant principal, and it's just such an outlet, even as a older guy, to be able to relive and to enjoy the game still, and to access it in different ways. There's the story of it. It's such a global game now, and there's so many different cultures. I mean, the opportunity to talk to someone in England about basketball, or you to talk to someone in Evansville, like there's no way that it would have happened without that connecting point. And that's such a fun part of being part of the basketball community.
It's incredible. And I think like social media, as much as at times I dislike it for whatever reason, like it's an amazing way to, if you have a passionate about something like basketball, to just connect communities, and no matter where you are in the world. And I think without that, I would never have connected with these guys. So yeah, I owe it all to Instagram, to be honest. I owe it all to Instagram. And I should say as well, like off the back of that, it was random, because a lady called Melissa, who originally got in touch with me about the Slam Hoops picture. I was visiting New York in 2015, and even though that's all they'd ever done is reposted my hoops pictures, I emailed her and said, look, I'm coming to New York. This is really out of the blue, but is there any way I could come to the offices and take some pictures? Yeah. And for whatever reason,
you're just on holiday in New York. You're like, I'm going to stop by Slam.
I would not have replied to that email if I was them, but they did, and she put me on to Ben Osborne as well, and he just gave me the tour. I was just so fortunate because Dennis Page happened to be there that day as well, and they just took me on a trip through their photo archives. So, amongst kind of just showing me other things in the Slam headquarters, they showed me these just incredible drawers full of original photographs that were featured in various issues and whatnot, and it was just incredible. And I think probably off the back of that as well, there was a relationship there. And so when I started the Instagram feed and featuring the issues, I wasn't such, I guess, a random guy. Like I was someone who they'd met and we'd kind of formed a relationship with, which was really cool, man. So I feel really honored to have got to do that as well.
I mean, you know how passionate you are too. If you're coming to New York and then just emailing to see some offices, like that's a deep level of care for something.
I was taking pictures of people's desks and stuff. It's ridiculous.
Wait, so you said Slam archive photos. So is there a future project hidden in that comment?
I'd love there to be honest. I mean, Slam do share some stuff from time to time. And put up some old pictures of KD in high school and stuff like that. Their catalog is insane.
Yeah, it's got to be incredible.
Insane. Yeah, but I hope so. I would love something like that to happen.
Okay, good. I'm pushing for it because I think you think about like any of their covers. So I want to talk to you next just about the cover, and get into that because they have to shoot just tons of different photos, and you could just kind of pick out what could have been, because it's the ones they end up picking have been so iconic, and you think it's just little choices. So do you have any favorite covers of the ones that you've done? I know you've got one over your shoulder there, which one of mine, the Kemp one's amazing. So good choice over your shoulder there. I got a Jordan one here. Love any MJ ones. I grew up by Chicago, so huge Bulls fan growing up.
Nice.
But curious, just like what are some of your favorite covers of all time?
So I love there's a Jason Williams issue 35. So for issue 35, they did 3 kind of potential rookie of the year. So they had Vince Carter, Paul Pierce, and they had Jason Williams. And for me, the Jason Williams cover is so sick because it's just everything he was at the time, kind of young, just swagger, arrogance, but in a kind of just a very appealing way. And he's kind of like holding the toothpick and looking like,
Oh man, that one's incredible.
It's just a sick cover. And I think for me as well, I think as a white guy who I wanted to play with flair, but there wasn't many examples.
The Globetrotters videos,
exactly,
right?
and our only point of reference was guy. I know there was obviously Pistol Pete, but he was kind of before my time. But he had like John Stockton, who was not playing with flair. A great player, but not much flair. But so when Jason Williams came and he played how he did, it was great for guys like me who wanted to play like that. So I love that cover, and I think probably a few others that I would mention is I love the kind of more recently. There's the Kobe and Gigi issue, which is it hit me.
It's so impactful.
It's amazing, and I think even when I saw it at the time, I was like, "Wow, I've never seen a cover like that before," and it's so incredible to see Kobe with his daughter on the cover, and then for that to become even more iconic and even more special now. For obvious reasons, is amazing. So that's definitely up there for me as well. And then this may seem like a random one, but I don't know if you've seen the first cover of Kicks. The first ever Kicks cover had Kevin Garnett.
I'm sure I had it because I didn't even know what it was, but it had Slam in the corner, so I'm sure I bought it
For sure. It was a great issue, and it was kind of endorsed by Nike throughout, and it was really cool. And it had KG on the cover. Again, just looking very cocky, it was just a really cool, very iconic cover. So that's one of my favorites as well. So yeah, I mean, there's countless, to be honest. There's very few that I would say that I dislike. Most of them, 99% of them, I love them. And then there's a few that are definitely amazing ones.
Yeah, the Showbiz and KG one is one of my all-time favorites because that just, again, I think the ones that are the stickiest for me are those first ones because they were such a shock to the system. Because again, I'm growing up in a small town in Indiana, and just the attitude, the bravado, just stuff like that was not breaking through on in the games that I was playing in. But like you said, I wanted to play like that, or imagined. I just wanted to imagine I could play like that even, and just to see that in there was incredible.
It's amazing, and I think like obviously I've got to mention it, like issue 30, that Allen Iverson with the afro has just it's almost become too iconic in a way. But when you look at the history of it and what it represented in terms of how basketball players were being represented at the time, I think that one has got to be mentioned as a standout for more than just the aesthetic, even though the aesthetic is incredible, but it represented something incredible as well. It was great.
Yeah, talk about owning a moment, right? Being able to get on there and just represent yourself and just like an attitude and a culture that was underrepresented or maybe not even represented in pop culture at the time. So cool. So I'm curious, what, just from your perspective, what do you think makes the cover, remain relevant? Because in that same interview, I thought it was very telling and really hit me as true. Dennis talked about like how important the cover of Slam still is and how relevant it is. So I'm just curious, of all the, print media that's kind of gone by the wayside, what helps keep Slam relevant and specifically the cover?
For me, I think it's authenticity. And I think there's a lot of kind of other sports outlets which are, credible and they're fine. But I think there's nothing else which allows in the same way for personalities of the players to come through. And I think from the cover right through to the content, whether it be interviews or other things, the personality and the culture of the players comes through. And I think that's something that historically the players have connected with as well, and have appreciated about Slam, and have given Slam time, because it allowed them to be, and continues to allow them to kind of express, themselves in a way that they feel comfortable with, and is not going to be kind of altered or made more palatable, whatever that means. And I think historically, again, going back to the Iverson thing, there was a time where that wasn't a popular thing to do. And so it was even more controversial then. I think it's a bit more normal now. But I think that authenticity is what has remained throughout. And I think what continues to remain now, when I see a Slam cover, it's just something that slaps you across the face when you see it, compared to a different magazine. I think other magazines, they're kind of, they're nice, they're shiny and they're happy and they're friendly. And then Slam is just something very
good,
real.
Yeah, that's good to juxtaposition it against the word friendly, because it's often not like that. That's which you would think would not be something that would bring you in, but of course, as a kid and a basketball player who you can appreciate the passion, and I think that was a great word that you used, the authenticity of it, like people being able to be themselves. It's more common now where athletes are able to share on, like you said, on social media and give their perspective, but it felt radical at the time. I even like the high school diary, to have a high school kid kind of writing about his experience as a basketball player, especially at the elite level, was just such a unique perspective that you couldn't find anywhere else.
Totally. And I think even you mentioned the Showbiz and the KG cover, and I heard a story that they I think it was them who, they couldn't believe that they were allowed to rock their jewelry, and they cut the sleeves off on their shooting shirt. They wore their headgear, and they were like, we get to do, we're allowed to do this. And I think there's something about that that's it's really powerful. And I think again, the basketball giving a voice to people who wouldn't ordinarily have a voice, i.e., young high school players who might not even make it, but they have a voice in a credible magazine that that people want to buy. And I think you can connect with that as well. And I think as a kid, reading those stories and reading kids writing who are the same age as me, I don't know, something about that almost kind of gave a sense of hope in a way.
Yeah, so there's no doubt about it, and it's just like connecting to that different place, and something so far away can all of a sudden be tangible and seem like you're a part of it too. And I think that's just it's hard to do, but when you do it right, it can really change your perspective on something. I'm curious then 100%. Some of just maybe a couple of the stories. So going through, what are a couple of stories maybe that you had, loved at first, but maybe forgotten about, that just it kind of resurfaced? Because I think too that, again, you said some of the authenticity, but there are just such a variety of stories that Slam has told over the years. And I think that's unique to Slam too, because their basketball is such a global culture that you could never tell all the stories. And a lot of the things, I read like Inside Stuff or watched the Ahmad Rashad show. It's sort of like one thing, and it just you could almost block it out yourself ahead of time if you'd watch the games. But Slam would come out and I'd be like, who, like Benji Wilson, and be like, who is this guy? Just it would seem to come out of the blue.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was definitely stuff that I think when I read it again second time round, it was really interesting. I think a big one that stood out for me was the Skip Tomalou cover story. I think it's issue 22. And when I first read that, I think it came out in like 97. It's pre-internet. I didn't have internet at home. It was pre-YouTube. There was no way I was ever going to be able to see footage. It was pre and one for what and one became right at the turn of the century, right? So I'd never heard of this guy. I'd never seen him play, And so to read some of the things he was doing, I think it talked about him passing the ball by like rolling it down his arm or something. and even just to hear about kind of playground basketball and that culture in New York, Rucker Park and everything else was just, it was captivating. And reading about it was incredible. And then I think reading that again, having, you know, and one came and went. Sorry, I shouldn't say went. The and one kind of frenzy was there.
Yeah, the peak of
century,
it.
Which was amazing. It peaked. That's the word I'm after. And you know, we see Rafe Olsen in the NBA. I've seen the story unfold, and then to read it again, having been able to picture it and visualize a bit more, having seen him play, having seen street ball in New York on video at least, was really interesting and was amazing. And I think probably seeing stories unfold and then reading them on reflection is incredible. Again, LeBron's basketball diaries before he was, you know, in the league when he was a high school player is amazing to read. I was blown away actually when I was reading. Because one thing I think about LeBron is he really, social media, and he really came up in that era where then people started commenting and putting comments on videos, and the amount of hate that he's kind of experienced throughout his whole career. And then I read an article that hit me as well where he was quoted and he said something like, you know, I know I'm going to face a lot of this and that and the other, but I'm going to just keep a level head. And I thought, wow, the fact that he's been able to keep that level head and be sober-minded and be kind of ignore the negativity is almost a bigger achievement than his achievements, because I wouldn't be able to do that. His NBA achievements, I mean, like, so to kind of face the amount of hate that he's faced in his career and stay positive and stay focused, I think is incredible. So yeah, any stories on kind of LeBron, Kobe have been incredible. And I think like, and Michael Jordan. So obviously, you know, just looking back and reading interviews, especially, I think Slam were just incredible at interviews because they asked just kind of very alternative questions at times, which were really, really interesting to ask. And so Michael Jordan interviews were really interesting to read back, especially while he was playing. And then probably anything by Scoop Jackson. I think reading stuff by Scoop from all the way back to current modern day is just always, it just always feels timeless somehow. He's just got a way of writing where you could read it at any point and it doesn't seem to go out of date, you know, so it's amazing. I mean, but Slam has that amazing thing overall. I think it's not a disposable magazine like other things, you know.
That's a great way to put it.
You know,
yeah, I mean, that's how it becomes that's how it becomes collectible, right? So it's not, you have this connection to the player, and I love the way that you told that, because while you were, it was a point that I wanted to make, and you said it before me, but just that that through line to discover players early and to be able, you know, I'm flipping in through this Jordan one that I showed earlier, and it's got Kobe and Jermaine O'Neal on the high school, the Slam high school All-American team, and to be able to just follow that through line through the NBA or through college, and they just kind of are just been able to pick out the interesting players and stories that represent the game so well. And I love what you said about LeBron, because even as a Michael Jordan, you know, evangelist, the of accomplishments is getting difficult, and I don't even want to argue about it. It's like, he's great too, because if I have to start thinking about it too hard, I could feel my Michael Jordan is slipping, and that scares me.
I hear that. I'm an MJ guy too as well, man. But yeah, I definitely admire LeBron for kind of what he's had to face. But I think someone made the point in one of the more recent Kobe special issues, is that Slam almost correlated its journey, like in '94, to you know, Kobe's retirement. It was almost their careers from that point until 2020, whenever 2019, like almost correlated in a really interesting way. And I think there's so many players where Slam has literally followed their whole journey from high school to the NBA to MVP seasons or championships. And I think that's something that's really kind of incredible as well, kind of flicking through the pages.
I'm curious, as a person who lives overseas, do you feel like the international game is represented? It's interesting because I feel like it's so much more outsized, and maybe a area that I'd like to still learn more about, though. I was listening to a couple guys talk about the NBA draft this morning, and they're talking about one of the guys who might be one of the top prospects, and he's in a league in Turkey, and I'm thinking, man, I really don't know. I don't know anything about international basketball for the most part.
Yeah, I, to be honest, I don't either. And I've met a lot of guys from kind of Italy and, like you say, Turkey, and them guys are really passionate about their leagues. And when you watch them, I've seen clips. I've never really followed it, but the standard, the levels are so high. It's Spain, Greece, like they've got some really incredible leagues, and Eastern Europe as well. In the UK, not, our league is okay, but it's not. I think the point is none of them are the NBA, and the NBA is always tends to be, for the most part, that's the goal, even for guys playing at elite levels in Europe. I would say for the most part. And so for me, yeah, as much as I respect those leagues, and I know the standard is very, very high, yeah, the NBA I think will always be the league to follow, And it's also so accessible. There's so much for an international guy. There's so much that you can just pick which platform you want to follow the league on, and there's so many. So you pick a pundit, and you can listen to them every day of the week talking about basketball.
No doubt, they can us talking about basketball even.
Exactly. So yeah.
Well, I so appreciate you coming on this evening for you over there, and welcome to come back anytime. I'll hit you up with a message here in a little while and pick out like a specific cover or story. I mean, I'd love to just like deep dive into the archives in a different way, because I think what you're doing is just, I mean, we love like we call it Hardwood history, and I just like picking through and just talking about it with people who are passionate about basketball, because it unearths different perspectives on the stories. Because even though you can read the story, when you talk to someone about it, they bring their whole life experience, and it's interesting to hear like how you're seeing it in similar ways. Like you were talking about the Skip to Malou article, and being able to follow him through, and not really being aware of the and one stuff until later. To I'm sure we'd have a lot of differences on different articles. I love that. But tell us what else you have in the works, or if you got any plugs or social media that you want to throw out there.
Well, you can follow me on my personal. I am on my personal page is Sammy the Bench Warmer. Instagram is my main outlet. I don't really do Twitter too much, but I need to do it more. But yeah, I think for me, kind of any area where I can kind of curate, where I can archive. Slam is my main thing at the moment, that I kind of put in those kind of extracurricular hours into. But yeah, I think for me, kind of going forward, I'm trying to get involved in kind of any projects I can with just people who are shedding a spotlight on basketball culture in an authentic way, and a real way. So, those are the things that hopefully people can see my name connected with. And with that in mind, it's great to be involved with this today, because this definitely falls into that category, man. So it's great. I love what you're doing with the podcast. It's brilliant.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll hit you up. And maybe some of the 1999 gear appear on the Sammy the Bench Warmer Instagram page sometime.
Without a doubt, man. Yeah, definitely. I'd love to throw it up there.
All right, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the 19.9 podcast with HVS, the high volume shooters. For more information, check out the blog at 19.9.com under HVS. And while you're there, do yourself a favor and pick up some retro college shorts. Till next time.
Bring it into the 19.9.